guys.
Hi.
Hello, Mahir. Hello, Declan.
Yeah.
I am Ivan from Sandorf.
Hey, man.
This is my colleague Darko Milošić, editor-in-chief and editor of Mahir's book. This is
Hi.
Matko.
Hi.
Matko is editor of my translation of Declan's comic book. And Ružica is a literary critic and author.
Or you better say journalist.
And journalist who will talk with us about both books.
Both books. I read both books.
Yes. So we are a bit crowded here, but we all tested and we are all okay. And also with us is Zinko Kreho, literary critic, author himself. He's joining us from his home in Zagreb. And we will talk about these two books. We called this, our conversation will be the third part of today's event, Mini Marathon. Mini Marathon is our standard literary event in which we try to present as many authors as possible in a relatively short time. Usually before the pandemic it was a day or two, but since live events are not possible, then we are now doing everything online, so we do everything in one day, in a few hours, as today. But we want to give the audience the ability to follow more authors at the same time, ask questions, and also if we see any similarities, or if you want to communicate in between yourselves, all of the participants, be free to do it and ask questions. So I would just ask my colleague if we are going live.
Ivane, jel me čuješ?
Yes.
Ivana from Booksa speaking. Are we ready to go live now? Yes.
Okay, so...
Okay, I will now press go live, so in about 10 seconds we will be live. Okay?
Great.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we are.
Hello, everyone. This is the third conversation of today's Sanders Mini Marathon. It's a fifth mini marathon, our literary event that covers contemporary European literature. Tonight with us are two very interesting authors, Mahir Gouven from France. Hello, Mahir. And Declan Shelby from Ireland.
Yep.
Declan, are you with us from Dublin?
Yep, Dublin.
So there are a lot of Croatians. Marko reminds me, a lot of Croatians moved to Ireland since Croatia joined the EU.
Why?
Well, it's a tough life.
No, it's just so it's nice here. It's just the weather is so dull.
I heard about it.
It's fine. It's fine when you're from here. I like it, but no, that's great.
You said for now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think this will be a great conversation because we have two books. We call this last event Savage Times,
Okay.
because both books speak about rough times, rough life on the streets, whether it's France or Ireland. I would just say in short about the two books. Since we don't have a lot of time, your biographies, Declan and Mahir, will show in the comments of the Facebook page, so the viewers can read your biographies. Grand Frère or Dva Brata, as it's translated in Croatian, two brothers, as the translator Natasha Medved decided to translate, and we went for it. It's a story about two brothers of Muslim background growing up in France, and one of the brothers being involved in radical ideas and some connections with the terrorist movements. And the other book is a comic, Savage Town, about actually real events of gang wars, drug gang wars in the Irish town of Limerick in Ireland in late 90s, early 2000s. So with these two books, we learn about maybe we can say the shady side of Western Europe, or actually the real life, what is really going on the streets of Europe in last 10 or 20 years. So, Matko, you did you want to start or
No, it's okay. I would ask Mahir.
Okay.
And before I ask, I have to comment something because when I started the book, but when I started it, I realized there is a praise for Turam, and then I was, oh no, because
You mean Lilian Tiran?
Lilian Thuram, because he is the guy who scored 2 goals and never scored again, and it was, you know, against Croatia. So it was like a funny moment, whoa. And but I didn't want to ask a question about that, and the thing that it's 2 brothers, and I have an older brother.
Me too.
Yeah. So I understand this part of brother connection, and it's really, I have to say for the audience, and it's really good. This older younger brother, because I will not spoil something if I say that the paragraphs are divided to the title like older brother, younger brother, and it's really like I like it. But
This is the book.
yeah, this is the book. But I realize something else also, because there is a really good perspective in how you live, how people live in suburbs. So I wanted to ask you, because everything is described like in great detail. So I'm interested in where did you get all this information? Because you know all the characters and everything. It's very such a vivid, realistic language. So that is say a lot about it.
First of all, thank you for the invitation. And excuse my French, I do not practice English since 2 years. So it was 2 years ago, I was living in Germany, and that was very easy to me to speak English. But now I'm in France, so excuse my French. You know, I grew up in the working class, so not in a bad area, but not in the good area, in the middle area. And then I lived in Paris, and I played football in a team in the suburbs. So I have many friends, and you know, I don't know, maybe because I came from the working class, I do not separate people, and I have actually many friends who have no diplomas, and it's I don't know, it's a cool way of life, you know. I am an editor in a publishing house, and I know intellectual people, you know, with big head and big ideas, but I love to speak with a guy in the street, and I don't know, and that's why. And maybe if I'm interested in life with details, you know, and I love hearing people, and it's like hearing music for me. The melody of speaking and the words they use to express themselves, what they have in the heart. For example, when in my suburbs where I grew up, when somebody said "son of a bitch," sometimes it's not. You want to say "I love you," but you say "son of a bitch." So I don't know. I try to, like a surgeon, try to understand what's happened in the heart of people, and that's all. Yeah.
Rough time.
Yeah. Um, I have a question for Declan. How did you come to the idea to portray Limerick from 20 years ago in the form of a comic?
Well, similarly, I come from a working class background, and when I got a little bit older, I kind of graduated to middle class. So I kind of I remember I remember growing up in a council estate. I was raised by a single mom, so that's kind of my background before I was able to kind of pursue comics after going to college and stuff. And I've had a career in mainstream American comics, and I've been very fortunate to make a living as an artist. But everything was superheroes, and it's all big action, and which is fun. But after a few years, I thought I was watching a film called The Snapper. It's based on books by Roddy Doyle, a well-known Irish writer, and it's all about this working class girl who gets pregnant, but before she's married, and all of the scandal and all of the judgment that she gets. And I remember watching it thinking, I haven't read any comics like this. Not a lot of nothing centered in Ireland, nothing that was about Ireland, even though there are many Irish creators. And I think because we've all been lucky to get work, you don't get paid to do personal work, so it's harder to do. So I was still working. I am still working as an artist, but I had a friend of mine who was very talented, and I thought he would do a great job drawing it if I could write it, and I could probably get it. I could probably show it to a publisher who would give it a try, and they did. So and I went to I studied art and design in there it is. I studied art and design in Limerick, which is close to. I'm from County Clare. Limerick is the next county, and that's where I studied art. And at the time, all I wanted to do was draw and meet girls. But at the time, there was a very big gang war happening, and I just wasn't aware of it. I knew there were deaths and murders and things, but I didn't understand why until I did some research. So I like to say that it's loosely based on a real story because those guys get out of prison soon. Um, but yeah, I thought it would be an interesting way to mix more personally based stories with the crime genre. I should stress I have never been in a criminal gang, and that's not my background. But when you go to Jimmy's house and you see his house, I mean that when Philip Barrett, the artist, when he drew that and I saw the pages, I was amazed because I grew up in exactly the same type of house. I think a lot of Irish people my generation will recognize the council estates and the houses and the horses and things like that. Yeah, sorry if that's too long an answer, but it was basically wanting to do something personal mixed with crime genre mixed together.
Thank you, Digman.
Can I ask Leon something?
Yes.
So there are a few sketches when your main character, Jimmy Savage, comes to his mother in this trailer park. But when I was reading it, I thought they were just a poor family living in this trailer. And I didn't realize this person was part of this minority called travelers.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about why did you decide to make this main character a traveler, and a little more about their position in the Irish society?
Sure. Well, when I lived in a council estate, I lived next to travelers. There were travelers all around. Travelers are basically they're an ethnic minority who were basically nomadic. So they used to travel all around Ireland in caravans and vans, and they're disproportionate. There would be like they wouldn't have much education. Some can't read. They kind of live outside of modern Irish society. And I knew more when I lived, in a council estate. But when I kind of graduated to middle class, I noticed how much bigotry there was towards someone who, like, I knew very little black people because Ireland didn't have many at the time. But people would treat them nicely, but they would treat travelers horribly. And I've always found it kind of interesting how a less obvious, like, different ethnicity was treated with more disdain than something that you would think would be more obvious. So I was interested in kind of showing a little bit of that, because it's not really, most people don't seem to know about travelers. And I mean, it's complicated because they were only recognized as an ethnic class maybe 10 years ago, very recently. But and many of them are settled. Many do actually buy. Like when I lived in a council estate, they lived in the estates, but there are many who refuse to, and there's a lot of problems because they live outside of society. So they have a very hard time getting work, and yeah, it's a whole other thing. But I wanted to kind of at least show a little bit of it because I think most people wouldn't know anything about it. I hope that was a good answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mahir, I have a question for you. Have you personally come across people in your life who tried to convert you to Islamism?
Oh,
And the second part of the question is, how would you define the line between idealism and fanatism?
sure. Oh, I met a lot of people who are Islamist. I don't know if they try to
Did you
convert.
report them to the police? Did you report them to the police?
No,
Okay,
no.
sorry.
And I don't know if they try to convert me to something because I have my head is like a rock. If you say something to me, I said and I'm just respectful, and then I try to say nothing. I love drinking, so it's difficult on Islamic people to so. But when I was a teenager, I remember during the high school there was a bus stop, and in the bus stop there was some people we were waiting for guys that are looking like look like Muslim like me, and they came and speak and try to I don't know, offer a sandwich or something like that. And the funny thing is there was French-born people who were converted to Islam. We do this job. That was the funny things. And for us, I don't know. We had jokes about this guy because, yeah, it was funny. And the line between idealism and fanaticism, for me, it's the same thing. Just the exception is the wish of death. Because when you have a wish of death, you can transform idealism in fanatism and try to start to do bad things. And it's when, yeah, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that your novel was very intense, read for me, very emotionally charged. I think anyone who has been a refugee or a displaced person, or maybe just economically struggle in life, I think this person would be able to connect with your novel. And I read somewhere that you wrote this novel in called Anger. My question is, how long have you been carrying this anger with you before you decided to write it down?
I don't know. You know, this anger has two sources, because the first of source is I left my father when I was very young. I was 4 years old, and after that I have a anger against life. And when I came to Paris, I understand that I came from a working class background, and this anger started to me, and today I have this anger. And but for Grand Frère, for two brothers, I was working in a newspaper, and one day during the a conference, when people said, you know, young people from the suburbs are something, and I said, okay, you are speaking about 5 million people, and I don't think that there is a stereotypes, and they are not robots or dogs or cats or I don't know. And even there were dogs or cats, there was very different dogs or cats. Maybe you don't have a dog or a cat. And I started to say, okay, I want to write a novel about this subject, what I lived, what I heard, what I saw, and I want to tell the story of mind. Yeah.
Also, one more question. I got the impression this younger brother was a very naive person, very good person, but then he decides to join ISIL. Did he know he was joining terrorists, or did he just go there just for a pure intention?
Oh, I think maybe he knows, but maybe he don't knows too. He don't want to know. You know, it's very when you have a dream and when you are invested by idealism, you close your eyes. And for this model, you know, I just think about the generation of my parents in Turkey. Most of them are communist. And I remember when I was a young guy, I said, but your guys killed other people, and said, okay, but that we want to do a revolution, so we have to kill people, and said, for me, that's not a good thing. So I built my character with this example.
Okay, maybe I have one more question,
Yes,
so I
of
can
course.
do it. Both these brothers, they're religious, as I understood, and they come from a French mother and from a Syrian father, but father is atheist and a communist. How come this boys became religious with these secular parents? It's just maybe you can tell me about the wider picture of, for instance, in France, are there such cases when parents are secular and children become religious?
Yeah, it's very to understand. When you are preaching communism in a capitalist world, and you got a Mercedes, and you try to earn money yourself, and you have a liberal way of life, for your sons, it's a kind of religious preach. So your sons cannot understand you, and maybe when then you try to find your roots, the easy way to find your roots, it's a religious way, and with the internet and friends and something like that, you try to find some roots. And yeah, I think I'm not a sociologist, but it's a thing that I saw many times. And in the typology of terrorists in France, in many families, there are secular family or secular parents, atheist parents, and the sons became terrorists. So I don't know why, but it's my point of view of writer.
Okay, thank you.
I want to say for our audience that Grand Fair or Dva Brata won the Goncourt Prize for first novel, and it's a big competition for that prize. So I think it's really worth reading it. And I want to urge the viewers to take the book and read it in bookstores or libraries. And about Declan's comic, it's a comic that was published by a big American publisher. So I would like to ask Dinko, who read the comic, how does he see this comic as a part of a big commercial comic book publishing, or as an alternative?
Hi, everybody, first of all. Well, as for me, well, I don't come from a working class background. Actually, I come from a middle class background.
Get out of here.
But what I was going to say, it doesn't mean I had a boring childhood or youth. Quite the contrary. I don't know, there was this war of ours in the 90s. I was a refugee first from Bosnia, first here in Zagreb. Then I actually lived in France, in Paris, and in Rennes. But I still haven't gotten to Ireland. But we'll see. You never know.
That's not going anywhere. You know.
But what struck me is like the similarity of the context as different it is. Like to take a small or mid-sized Irish town and our urban areas in former Yugoslavia in the 1990s, as different as the context is, what struck me is really some similarities in that. I mean, I was like in high school in the mid 90s, late 90s, and like I remember this rise of the criminal or the gangster as actually a social figure, not something you hear about from somewhere, or something that's a metaphor, or something that's like you see in a movie. But I remember this rise actually. It was a bit overshadowed. I'm saying we had the wars, so it was like it took the spotlight. But this was also the rise of organized crime, and not only of organized crime. I mean, there was organized crime always, but this figure of the criminal, which became sort of a media personality, sort of in even in big cities, all of a sudden you had some prominent criminals, prominent gangsters who were like media figures, who were you were supposed to know who they are. You were supposed sort of celebrities, and this new like romanticization of the underworld and of the criminal life. So I think there's something in its context which I find very even strikingly similar, and also of course the wider social context. What I see is like it's sort of sketched more so than shown, but it's quite powerful because we can see this the effects of this post-industrial city with some like neighborhood in construction, which is advertised as a dream home. And like you see all these half closed neighborhoods. I think it's Jimmy's house, which is half shut, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the house next to his.
Yeah, it's called semi-detached over here.
Semi-detached.
So, yeah, so
okay.
If you had a house where both ends you could go around, you were fancy. Most council houses were connected to a second house, and you would have a garden access on one side. It's a silly council estate thing, but
okay, so like it's but basically it's the house next to his, or the
it's ruined.
Apartment next to his, which is shut down, with the windows are shut, the doors are shut down. And this whole imagery of this post-industrial landscape run over by competing gangs is something I remember not only from literatures, not only from literature, not only from popular culture, also from life. It's something I've been following. But to answer Ivan's question, I mean, it all depends of the context where it's published, and how it's seen. It, I mean, it can mean different stuff to different audiences. um, I don't know. I think maybe Declan is more suited to answer the question, because it has to do with the commercial success of the graphic novels. So
Well, I mean, I had originally pitched it as a series, but I talked to to Image Comics, and Eric Stevenson felt it might actually work better as a graphic novel, and I think he was right in the long run. I don't think Philip's art style or that story would necessarily do well in a monthly American marketplace.
yeah, the 30 page
Yeah.
volume.
I mean, but it's the story I wanted to do. I could have done something more commercially appealing, but this was the project I wanted to do. The benefit of doing it with Image Comics was that it was uncompromising. That I mean, I can't read Croatian, so I don't know how you were able to adapt the slang. There's so much slang words, especially in Limerick. Like in Ireland, we tend to speak in phrases where the tone tells you what you're saying rather than the actual words. And another American publisher probably wouldn't have let me do that, but I wanted it to be as authentic as possible without losing the reader. So I'd love for someone who knows Croatian to sit me down and tell me what everybody's saying. But to something you were saying before as well is something that Savage Town was really about. Is Ireland was going through so much change at that time. Like when I was in school, there was like one black kid in every class. That was kind of like a joke, because there was so few. That's when we started getting immigration. I remember all of a sudden there were beautiful blonde ladies everywhere, and I'm like, where do they come from? And they were from Poland, but we had never had immigration before, so all of a sudden everybody was looking different, and so much money was coming into the country as well. So much building happened during that time. Ireland became which is probably why so many people came, like from Croatia and Poland, because we actually had money for the first time in our lives. So, and of course we went nuts because of it. So those were little things. I'm glad you kind of noticed those little background details, because that was the subtext of what was happening in the plot. But I feel like I'm talking too much, so I'll stop.
No, it sort of ties into this question I had, but first of all, I want to say, as for the translation, well, we're lucky to have the translator here. It's Ivan, actually.
Oh, you
so
actually okay.
Yeah, so we can ask him about the process. I'd love to hear about that too. Speaking of, the backgrounds, the landscapes, the everything that's going on, there's really a lot of plot lines. There's really a lot of plot, a lot of stuff. It's actually quite a complex narrative. It's like when you start reading it, it seems easy. It has this episodic structure, but actually, some characters we can get around pretty quickly. We get who they are. We can follow them quite easily, but there's actually a lot of plot. So I'm interested in how you approach that. In planning, was it maybe because it was first planned as on pitch as a series, so you had like a sequential narrative, or was it something you had from the beginning, all the plot lines, that there's a lot of characters, lots of interactions, lots of different camps also, or sides. I can follow.
I'm afraid it wasn't that well planned at all. I mean, I knew the ending, so that helps a lot. But what happened was I wrote it in chapters, but not issues. So when the project was accepted, that's when the graphic novel discussion happened. So it's not like I changed my mind afterwards. when we decided on graphic novel, that's when I started to write. So the benefit of that is that you don't need to recap everything every 20, 30 pages, which, considering how much is happening, I was glad, because, graphic novel, everything is about real estate. You only have so much space that you need to kind of make everything work. So that was a huge help. But what happened was I would write a chapter knowing the basic plot, but when Phil would come back with pages, they would inform the characters. So the two boys who are always messing things up, Brunch and Inch, I had just written them in a scene, and Phil did this great kind of haircut on one of them, and there's the spots on the other, and I just was like, they look great. I just wanted them to be in it more. So the story kind of reacted to Phil's work, which he drew more of, and it was very satisfyingly collaborative in that way.
Thank you. I'd like to hear even sorry for me taking over the moderation for a bit, but I think the question of translation is interesting here because of everything that Declan said. So maybe even if you can give some feedback.
I can shortly comment. I translate from English for quite some time, and I translated different genres. This is the second comic I'm translating. Because I was doing music books when I started publishing about 16, 17 years ago. When I started working in publishing, I was doing music biography. So I was editing translations of rock and roll biographies like Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison, Kurt Cobain. So I did a translation for another publisher of Kurt Cobain's biopic in comic, which is a British author. I think Godspeed is called the comic.
I think I know it, but I can't remember who did it.
I can't remember the author. It was like 15 years ago, and I translated that comic. But the publisher closed down shortly after that, so the comic didn't even basically came to the market. But in this was different, even though it was a pleasure to translate that comic, because I got to translate even some Pixies verses that in that comic.
Well, tell me this: what did you translate "Days and Pure" into? Because
come again.
There's a term "Days and Pure," which is like a really pretty girl. Like you'd go, "Oh, she's a Days and Pure," but I don't know what you.
Yeah, I translated it.
Decent is just a way to say decent, but that's not. Again, it doesn't literally it's not literally what the word means. It means pretty.
Okay, I found it. Okay. I translated it Vrhova. Well, it was about it's about the pretty girl that wanted.
Yeah, we were really like commenting it because there were two or three options, and then I said maybe this like Vrhova is the best because nobody would said something different. It was like really stopped at this because it was like important to say that this girl was.
Very important.
I took liberty. I took liberty to create some kind of coinage, some kind of a new language which doesn't exist in any local area.
Okay, that coinage wouldn't make sense in Croatia. Like, is it one that in Croatia you would understand?
Yeah, of course. But I just picked up a street language from different times and from different areas of Croatia, and just created a tone, as you said, a tone that I believe would reflect the tone from your book, from your narrative. So a lot of phrases. I used as many phrases.
Cool. I'd love to know what they are someday.
Yeah, like proverbial stuff. So I enjoyed it. It was a great challenge, and I even used um, what we call in Slavic languages shatra, which is like inverted lingo. In Slavic jargon, you often use in a jargon you use inverted syllables. So because sometimes you use really like shortened words, as the example you mentioned, which is I read in one interview of yours, like to American audience, it was like half understanding. And so I try to imitate this tone in Croatian.
No, I'm glad. I'm glad the translation isn't very dry. You know,
Yeah,
it wouldn't suit the tone of the book.
Dinko can say if he liked it or if he thinks I got the point.
I think I think this this approach of taking actually different slangs because you took some Zagreb dialect, some Dalmatia stuff, and stuff from different regions is quite good here because you're not adapting it to a certain Croatian region. You're just trying to render this speech of these people in Ireland, like in another place, using slang and speech that the reader can identify, the Croatian reader can identify. But I think, I mean, I would probably approach it the same way. Like, and actually, I like the mixture, and I think it's often, sometimes the translators fail hard when they try, they take a certain dialect and they try translating it or rendering it into another dialect, word by word. Like, for example, I don't know, you take some.
Yeah, I was a little worried about that, but I had no idea.
No, no. I like the approach.
Can I ask Maher something?
Yes.
I was just curious about your book. Were you worried about how it will be perceived? I mean, it sounds like very very touchy subject matter. Was that a concern for you at all?
No.
All right then. All right. Question answered.
Maybe 3 guys who wrote me on Facebook, but
Yeah.
no, I have more concerns with extreme right people in France when I have to speak against racism or something like that. I receive many comments on the social media, but dumb people do not read books, so
Yeah, fair enough.
Yes. Yeah, talking about translations, Natasha Medved, who translate Mahir's book, which is also full of slang, also done a great job. So I must say that. And I have a question for Mahir. How certain is it for a young man of immigrant origin to one day study at the Sorbonne?
yeah. So
Kansas.
there are no issues with the institution of the university in France because most of universities are public and you don't have any exams for enter to the university. You just need a high school diploma, sorry. And but the issue is about the self-confidence and the passport of self-confidence. So can I try to study in this university and etc. etc. For me, it was very easy. I had a girlfriend, and she said me, you have to enter to the Sorbonne to study and blah 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 blah. And then I went to Paris. But the story, it's not to be an immigrant. It's maybe to came from Nantes, which is not Paris, and to take the train for 2 hours, but it's another world. It's Paris. It's a big city, and Nantes, it's not a small city, it's a medium city, and yeah, that was the only issue, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe I can also ask one question, also, although it's a political question. Can you tell me, um, you had actually a couple of terrorist attacks last year, and what is the political climate in France towards Muslim communities
Yeah,
today?
it's very crazy because I read yesterday that 9,000 people are dying from suicide. So in 10 years, it's 90,000 people. And in 10 years, we only, sorry, for the word only, we only left 300 people from terrorist attacks, but our only problems is about Islam and Muslim people. So it's very crazy. Our chance is that a book was published this week, which the subject is incest. So the new trend is speaking about incest to concern millions of French child. So it's very, our president is a liberal populist, and everybody is populist in Europe now, maybe except Angela Merkel, I don't know, but so yeah, the political trend is very bad now. It's very difficult, and I don't know, we're expecting to bad times.
But Mahir, what do you think about the state of literature and writing today? As I know, you are editor in one bigger publishing house, and you are trying to bring the younger voices out to the audience. Do you think this situation with the virus, which is turning into a permanent situation, it's already almost 1 year, we are in a more or less lockdown environment, do you think maybe that it's doing some good to the literature, because people are at home, have to read? Maybe this is some kind of transition toward a more understanding society.
I don't know for you, but I receive more and more manuscripts, and they are maybe not so good because people are writing very quickly, and then I said, okay, you have to develop your dramaturgy, or maybe you have to read one more times because before sending to me. So I don't know. I don't know for you, but I receive, in normal time, I receive 10 manuscripts every week, but now I receive, I know, 20, maybe 30 manuscripts every week, and I don't have time to read. And when I try to explain to people that it takes maybe 3 or 4 hours to read the manuscript, so I don't have 100 or 200 hours a week to read all that manuscript. I don't know. I think we will be maybe a little bit shocked or mentally healed from this period. And yesterday I was in a bad mood, and today when I woke up, I said, why yesterday was I so in a bad mood? I don't know why, but maybe because I don't see my friends, I don't drink with my friends, and I don't like to speak with Zoom, so I do it, but I don't like. And
yeah, I miss drinking.
Yeah. And I don't know. Yeah, maybe. But in France, I don't know in Croatia, but in France, the bookstores are sell very, 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 very more books during this period, because the government closed the bookstores during the last lockdown in October, and there was a big campaign, from critics and famous critics with a friend, and one bookstore with a friends to do a protest and open the bookstore. So the television show invited him to the show to explain why books are so important. So it was an advertising campaign, a free advertising campaign for books. That was a good thing. And
did they open?
No, they close only 10 days, but that change nothing. They close 10 days, take just holidays, and then people run to the bookstores to buy books and books and books. So they don't suffer this last year from the lockdown. They said for their business.
Can you maybe recommend us some contemporary French literature novel or two?
Can I recommend? I don't know. I'm looking in my shelves. I think you know Virginie Despentes.
Oh,
Virginie Despentes.
Yeah, she's translated in Croatian.
Yeah. Virginie Despentes is, I think a very good writer and a good writer friend. She's not a friend, but she's a writer friend. And I don't know, contemporary literature. Oh, it's since 2 years I'm only reading German literature because I was living in Germany, so it's not easy to me.
Maher, send them some of those manuscripts.
Mahir, did you read Cecile Gilbert, Republicans?
Cecile?
Cecile Gilbert.
No.
Oh, okay. We just published this novel, Republicans. Okay. I recommend it to you, by the way.
No. One book I love is Valérie Montaud. Valérie Montaud, Le Sillon. She won the Renaudot Prize 3 years ago, and it's a story we took place in Istanbul, and it's very, very tough writing, and I don't know. Yeah, Valérie Montaud.
Oh, yeah.
She's a very good writer. Yeah.
Okay.
We have hard time understanding your French pronunciation, so we didn't quite get it.
Amélie?
Amélie Nothomb, did you say that?
No, Valérie.
Valérie?
Like Valeria.
Okay, Valerie. Okay.
Valérie Montaud.
Monto.
Okay.
Okay.
And the book name is Le Sillon. Le Sillon.
Okay. This was a fun and interesting conversation.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you both for participating. And I think both of your books are standing out in our catalog, and that they will have long-term readers and fans. And I hope we'll be able to host you here in Croatia in some different circumstances sooner or later. And we are also, all of us in Sandorf, we are looking forward to following your new works and maybe eventually publishing those. And of course, always as editors, we are open to suggestions. As you, Mahir, now mentioned several authors. Also, Declan, if you think we should look more into Irish comic scene, we are happy to hear about any recommendations.
Sure, I'm drawn. I know too many people right now, so I'm drawing a blank. But I'll happily send you some recommendations.
Okay, great. And even if you're coming as tourists to Croatia once the borders open, come and have a drink with us in Buksa.
Okay, you can't take that back now. That's
No.
like it's a verbal contract.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks to all the viewers, and I want to thank the Creative Europe program of the European Union for helping these books to come out.
And the translators.
And of course the translators. I won't thank myself, but I would thank Natasha Medved for translating Mahir's book. and also the Ministry of Culture who supported the publication of these books and this event. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks.
I hope to see you soon next time.
Yeah, take care. Thank you.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
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 Bye.